Among the pieces at the Potteries Museum and Art Gallery that we have are quite a range of Chinese porcelains. Not wares that were designed for export to the Europeans, and not the sorts of wares that were being copied by the Staffordshire potters in the 18th and most of the 19th century, but wares that were being made for the Chinese themselves, which were then collected at the end of the 19th century and, in this instance, given to us in the 1930s. What we have here, in particular, are a small group of wares that would have been seen perhaps on a scholar's table. The little piece number 4, with what appears to be a range of mountains, is a brush rest. The little figure of the dragon curled up is a water dropper, as is indeed this model of a gourd on its original wooden stand. And these were small, precious objects that would have been a symbol of the erudite and the learning and the sophisticated tastes of the person that bought them originally. And this was the sort of pottery that was being collected by Europeans who were visiting China at the end of the 19th century. And we have got quite a good collection of this type of Chinese ware, which was given to us in the first part of the 20th century, when a lot of people who were working overseas as a part of the empire, as administrators, in business out in China or whatever, were then returning home, retiring back to England, bringing these pieces back with them and then donating them. The Chinese pottery and porcelain that we have here at the Potteries Museum covers a huge date range. It goes back to the Han and the Tang dynasty, which would be equivalent to the period of the Saxons, and 1066, as far as English are concerned, right up to well into the 20th century. And the Chinese were making fabulous wares for several thousands of years. Some of the earliest pottery that's known actually has been found in China, beautifully decorated and going back to 3,000 years BC, before the Christian era. But I just want to draw your attention to these 3 pieces here, the bottle and the 2 little cups, which were made in the early part of the 20th century, right at the end of the imperial period. The imperial kilns at Jingdezhen had been in production for hundreds of years. They made the highest quality wares imaginable, and many of them were given as gifts by the emperor to trade delegations, to other monarchs, or for use in the royal palaces. But at the end of the 19th century, in the first part of the 20th century, that whole imperial system was gradually starting to break down, but the kilns were still producing wares of a very high quality indeed. And these pieces were bought by Ronald Copeland, who was the owner of the Copeland factory, Copeland Spode factory in Stoke-on-Trent, and were given to this museum so that people in Stoke-on-Trent would have a chance to see the really fine quality that was being produced in China by contemporary potters, and to show the Staffordshire potters of the early 20th century what the competition was.